Yeah, I should pull that up. It's the YouTube link, right?
Yeah.
Let me just find that.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome. We see you hanging out in the chat already. Welcome. Thanks for coming. This is the NYC 19 Certified Innovator. How might we workshop and how might we have the best time ever with Les McBeth today? Hey, Les, thanks for coming.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and hear about everyone's challenges they're working on.
This is so awesome. Great. We'll introduce Les a little bit more in a moment, but right now is all about you. Find people in the chat. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Looks like most of you have already with your name, Twitter handle if you have it, job role, city, state, country. And then go ahead and let us know what cohort you think you might be applying for. We're going to focus on New York today, but if you are thinking of applying to Singapore or Sweden or other English speaking academies this year, let us know. So let those introductions come in. This is a great chance to build your personal learning network today, make some connections. If you see anyone who has a similar project idea as you, reach out to them and join this global network. This is what being a certified innovator is certainly all about, is joining global educators who are trying to transform education. So looking at our chat, we got a full one tonight. Welcome, Googly Judy, hands in hands. Hey, Courtney. Hey, Lisa. Awesome. Hi, Chris. Welcome. Awesome to see a bunch of different job titles roll in today. We've got integration specialists. We've got virtual and blended learning specialists. Band director, Stephen Keys. That's awesome. We have a lot of innovators who are in the music department and doing really cool stuff. So don't worry, even if you're higher ed or an administrator, we want you to make this a very diverse group. Welcome, everyone. Hey, Christine, special education. Welcome, Anne-Marie. 9th and 12th grade creative writing. Oh, that's when it gets really good, right, Les? Those 12th grade writers.
Yeah.
They move from the angsty to the real. Welcome, Craig, applying to NYC.
People from so many different parts of the country, too, and all over the world. South Korea, Massachusetts, awesome. North Dakota. So cool.
Very cool. And that's one thing about the 3 days, everyone. You do need to find your way to New York, but after that, it's really all put on by Google. So just find yourself a place to stay. A lot of innovators get Airbnbs together or find a great hotel rate. So no matter where you are, you're eligible to join us in New York. So glad to see people from all over joining us. Cool. Thanks, everyone. Keep those coming in. As you see those Twitter handles come in, follow them to your network right now before you forget. We will record this. It's on YouTube. We'll send it out to you after, as well as the chat transcript. So all your ideas that are flying out, we will send out. With that, everyone, the New York applications are due August 2nd. At certifiedinnovators.com. So that's what we're focusing on today. But if you aren't thinking of New York and maybe you're thinking of Singapore, that's due July 5th. That's our Southeast Asia 19 cohort. Again, you can be from all over the world. It is English speaking, but you might want to try your hand at applying for that as well. You can apply to multiple academies. You can always reapply with the same exact application, or you can get some feedback on it from your personal learning network, make some tweaks and try again. You also might be interested in coming out to Stockholm this November. Those applications are due September 6th. So it's summertime for a lot of us in the Northern Hemisphere. So it's a perfect time, hopefully, to dive into your application with Les and I today. If you are just hearing about this program, we had our first webinar where we went through what are some challenges you're facing in the classroom. But it is a 3-day academy. It's been around for 12 years. We have over 1,700 innovators from all over the world working on projects, working on changing education, and working with each other to advocate for children and technology. So you'd be joining this really great network by coming to a Google office with us. This is some of our photos I wanted to show you from Sydney, our very first cohort of the year. You can see here it's 36 educators, a lot from Australia, New Zealand, but a lot from the US and all over the world as well. But just check it out. They're taking their challenges that they applied with, and then they spend 3 days with a design coach like Les to get their project into a prototype and something that they can launch at the end of 1 year. So after the 3 days and all of this fun that you see, you'll be matched with a mentor, and you'll try to work that project back in your school and launch it for other educators around the world to access and replicate. But it was a really great time, really great cohort, lifelong friends and colleagues. We hope you join us for sure. If you have any questions as we're going through this tonight, feel free to pop it in the chat. And awesome. Yay. It's so great to see some coaches. Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for joining us tonight. Jennifer Scott's here, a couple other coaches. The Academy is actually led by 6 fellow innovators. You can see Emily McLean here, one of our innovators turned coach. And they actually sit at the tables with you and help you ask good questions about your project, support you all the way through, and they'll support you through the year as well. So glad to have you on the call today, Jennifer. Perfect. And this is the second in a series of 3. So 1, you need to get your level 2 certification, but 2, you have to think of a challenge that you're facing in the classroom. We did that in our last webinar. We'll have one more webinar this summer about your video. So if anyone wants extra help on designing that 60-second video that tells the story of your challenge and why you're passionate about it, we'll have one more. But this evening is all about, or morning for some of you, all about taking that challenge and getting it ready to get some solutions for it at the Academy by framing it into a how might we statement. Before I do that with Les, can you all join me in the actual application? If you want to have 2 screens open and watch us, we're going to try to make this pretty interactive tonight. Go ahead and open up certifiedinnovators.com. And if you started an application already, open that puppy up. If you haven't, you will have to fill out a couple of biographical information to get to the point where the questions are. Oh, awesome. Hey, Santi. Hey, Jason. Great to have coaches in the chat tonight as well, and fellow innovators. Awesome. If you see Jason, Santi, Jennifer, they'll be giving you some feedback in the chat tonight. Thanks so much, guys, for helping us give some good feedback to design the best how might we statements possible. So once you're in the application, you'll want to go ahead and just sign in if this is your first go. And then once you get past that biographical data, you do have to put your email that's associated with the account that you did your level 2 certification with. So do make sure that you just match it, right? You might need to log into the exam center to check. I know we all have 30 email accounts these days. Just make sure you have that right one. And you have plenty of time between now and August 2nd to get that level 2 certification. Let us know in the chat, do you have it? And if you do, any tips for completing it, just let us know. We won't focus on that tonight, but if you need any support, the Teacher Center has wonderful online lessons you can take, and really just schedule it and do it. And it's a really hands-on. You can open up another tab window, walk yourself through it, and get really advanced with things like sheets and forms and student data. That will allow us to really focus on the design thinking with Les while you are in New York. Woo, look at all of you guys. You have it. Love it. 1, 2, and trainer. Awesome, Carla. You're ready for, what do you call, Les, a trifecta for a 4? Is it a quadfecta?
Quad? I don't know, it's a hat trick in Canada, so if it's 3.
I love it. Perfect. It seems like everyone here is ready to focus on design thinking. Don't worry if you don't have it yet. Maybe throw in some tips here from anyone who doesn't yet. You need to renew, Jason. Oh no. Superfecta, Michael. Hola, Edison. Cool, guys. Thanks everyone for letting us know your status. You are ready for this. Great. So don't forget to pop that same email in and you're ready to move on in the application. Next part is online advocacy. Everyone on the call are innovators, Jason and Jennifer, Santi, Les. We all want innovators in our network who love to share, right? That's how we learn. All of us still follow each other and we look to our network to get good ideas, to get feedback. We had one of our LAX 18 innovators, Susanna, just launch her project from July. She sent it out to the network and now she's got people retweeting it. She has people signing up and helping her out. That's what it's all about. So it's important here on this online advocacy portion to share your Twitter profile, LinkedIn if you have it. None of this is required, but you might want to consider if you don't have much going on right now this summer on your accounts or online. Typically, applicants score better who have some activity because it shows that they like to share and that they'd be a great colleague to have in the network. So do consider beefing those up over the summer. You can put a website or a blog if you have one. Or a podcast, right? Anything that you think is representative of yourself online. You can see here, there's this share another link to show your online presence. That could be anything, wherever you like to put your stuff. If it's Instagram, right? If you maybe have some new rap beats that you're working on SoundCloud, put that there, put whatever you are posting online. And then this other question, total online reach, is just give a shot at how many followers you have. Don't worry, this is not weighted huge, but it is a piece of the overall picture of yourself as an innovator. So don't be too sad if it's on the lower scale, but certainly showing that you're posting stuff is super helpful. If you have any questions about this online advocacy portion, throw it in the chat and our innovators in there could maybe help give you some tips. Or maybe you want us to follow you right now on something, we'll follow you. We'll follow you anywhere you go, right, Les? No, Les has some boundaries. She won't follow you everywhere. Cool. I'm just going quickly, everyone, so we can dive into our workshop portion. Next, you have link a piece of content you've created that you think has inspired other educators. So this one, you'll want to make sure maybe it is a PDF guidebook to something you made for your school, or maybe it's a Flipgrid that you have open for book reviews that you have other teachers share at your district, right? This could really be anything that you're proud of. And if you haven't made this yet, right, now is a good time to think of end of the year. Maybe I want to write a piece of content and get it out there. Robin's asked, can the website be one that I created? Absolutely. So this one right here, website or blog link, that one's just open for you. Any sort of website that you have as your digital presence, put that one on. And then again, if you have another link to share your online presence. So those ones are open-ended, any link that you want. Great. And then piece of content. I don't know if Jason or Santi, if you guys have favorite links to your own content or examples, but feel free to drop in the chat any nuggets of wisdom here about getting that link ready or what they could do or deciding, right? That's the hardest part, is deciding that one site that might embody what you do as an innovator. Yeah, the content too can be you created, Robin, for sure. Cool. Welcome, Carrie. Thanks for joining us. Alicia, yeah, combined followers. So that's kind of a loosey-goosey number, but just kind of think of, take a quick stock of maybe how many LinkedIn followers you have, or how many Twitter followers, or even look at if you made a hashtag for something at your school, you could see how many people are on there. It's super open-ended, and then just kind of explain it. It's not super scientific, but give us a rough sense of what you're doing out there. Yeah, see Flanman, yeah, it says under online reach, there's a box that says explain. Yeah, just really say, if you put in a number like 4,000, then just put, I gathered this from looking at my Instagram, my Facebook, and my Twitter followers. I combine them all, right? So just explain where you're getting that number from. Or maybe yours is totally different, and maybe you have like a closed network at your district, right? Maybe you have a, Canvas, community or something, and you have 100 people that are there. But maybe the work you do with those 100 is super strong. So maybe you just want to explain it and say, I only have 100, but those 100 I work with super closely. I share with them resources. Maybe it's your listserv at your school, right? Get creative. Don't worry if it's not traditional modes of reach. Feel free to use this space to explain that. Thanks, C. Flonman. Totally. Forums is great, Luis. I think just explain that for sure. Yeah, right. A good point, Jennifer. You're scored by your fellow innovators. So as they open up your application, they'll probably plop open these links and take a look as well, right? So good point. Like if you put 5 million here, they'll probably see pretty quickly by looking at your Twitter profile that there might have been some fudging. So yeah, just kind of do a round number there, but it does not need to be exact. Thanks, everyone. Great questions. And then super open-ended, which conferences have you attended or presented at in the last year? Again, don't worry if you're new, like we certainly have first year, second teachers become innovators. So if that is not something you've done yet because you're an early career innovator, just explain that and say, man, I haven't been to ISTE yet, but I want to so badly. And I can't wait as an innovator to start applying to do this. So you can use this spot as a place to show your wishes or your intent for that one day as well. And then next, we have share a specific example of how you have helped build a culture of innovation in your school or organization. So this is before you even get to the new challenge you want to tackle, to look at how you've already done that, how you've already innovated at your school. So this one, just think back and think of a time that you had something challenging in your classroom, and then really explain it. How did you go about implementing the change? How did others respond? How did you measure outcomes? Keep it 300 words and just really make sure you answer the brief, right? It asks 4 things there. As you're writing it, just literally even say that, right? I implemented it in this way. I measured it this way, right? And make sure you get that full storyline in there of how you had change happen. Cool. Let me know if you have any questions. Totally. Alicia is already planning the ISTE parties. Les is going to be there. You can find her. Google for Education has a lot of fun stuff going on at the booth. A lot of our innovators are presenting. So you might want to just pop by the booth if you're going like Alicia, and you can ask questions, maybe chat about your project idea. Cool. You wish you were going, right? Alvina's got it right. Sometimes just the wish is all you need. Hi, Tiffany. Welcome. Awesome party. Thanks, Jason, for sharing a summit happening in August. Love it. Links in that example. Great question, Lisa. Yeah, you totally could. I probably wouldn't put a bunch, maybe 1 or 2 that really, again, if Jennifer or someone is scoring it, probably 1 link that might best show that project for like measuring outcome. Totally. Again, check your links. You wouldn't believe it, but some of the strongest applicants, we can't access their links. So get that incognito window open, test it, and just make sure your video, any of your online presence, it's all accessible. EdTech karaoke for sure. Cool. The link showing the data, that's wonderful, Lisa. If any of you are certified trainers, you know that the application asks you to look at data as well, and you have to put that in. So likewise, that might be something fun to put there. Perfect. Thanks, Tiffany, for sharing your handle. We'll follow for sure. All right, everyone, moving along. Why do you want to become a Google certified innovator? Maximum 150 words. I'll go ahead and put this on the screen right now. Type that out right now. Why are you all here today? Why do you want to become a certified innovator? There's no right or wrong for this one. But again, as those innovators are scoring you, really looking for your passion, really making sure that this is something, you don't want to just add another feather in your cap, but you really want to change education. You like using G Suite in the classroom to do it, and you're looking to collaborate with others who are like-minded. But let us know, why do you want to become a certified innovator? Throw it out there. Robin wants to help others find meaning and passion. Totally. That can be kind of the itch that a lot of us have. Like we've done it in our own classroom, but you want to help others. Totally, Jennifer. Yeah, you're right. Sometimes private accounts come up, and that's a bummer. Any other, why do you want to become a certified innovator? Get those in the chat. Oh, I love that one. Louise, because you like helping others out, make them use it smarter, not harder. Tiffany's a trainer and fell in love, and now you want to innovate. That's totally cool. If you're a trainer, you can become an innovator. Likewise, innovators become trainers. Oh, empower your littlest to be creators, Debbie. You want to change how people see and promote digital citizenship. Thanks, Mickey. Motivate reluctant students. You want to work with assistive technology, Christine. Disposition of teachers, Alvina. Les, does this sound exciting? Do these people sound really innovative?
I was actually just typing out a comment that I was like, there's so much passion in this chat right now. You can just feel how excited people are to really change education and continue to make it better for their students. It's so awesome.
Totally. And I think everyone says it, but really it's the people that are consistently the best thing in the evaluations of the program is being able to connect with other people. And even hopefully you see in this chat, like, oh my gosh, Mike thinks like me, or Alvina thinks like me. It's just something in our daily lives, we just don't get that enough. So the concentration of passion is really huge. Awesome, Lisa, motivating to integrate technology, empowering student voice. You want students to be independent. Anne Marie, you want to inspire lifelong library users regardless after K-12. Catherine, I like that. Very cool. All right, guys, thanks for sharing. With that, we're going to last call for any questions about the front end of the application. Really, it's about you, your past as an innovator, and what you're doing online right now as an advocate for innovation. So let us know any questions about that. It sounds like all of you are well on your way to completing that part of the application. With that, we're going to dive into your challenge itself in the application. And there's a few parts to this part of the application. And we know it seems like a lot, but it will set you up for success for those 3 days. You'll come at it running and ready to spend the time making and creating with 36 other inspiring people. If you came to our last webinar, we did the Gripe Jam with which helped you arrive at a possible challenge that's really, really bothering you. If you didn't come to that, we have the video that we sent out that you can watch, or you can just dive in with a fresh challenge with us today. I guarantee you that you probably have a few top of mind that are making your life difficult as an educator. Les is going to walk you through sharing what you have as your challenge and then framing it, because that's the big transition here, is moving from this bothers me to I want an opportunity to solve it. And so with that, we have from our Mountain View 16 cohort at Les McBeth. She will be at EdTech Karaoke at ISTE. She will be in New York as your fearless design coach, walking you through your project. But today she is going to walk us through our challenge and our how might we statement. So thank you, Les, as always, for coming today.
Thanks again for having me. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about your challenge today. And as you may or may not have already heard, a big part of the sort of structure of helping you come up with ideas to solve your challenge is built around design thinking. And I work for an organization called Future Design School, and we help teachers to build a design thinking framework in their classroom to help design learning experiences for students and to solve big problems that they're facing in their schools. And it's just a really amazing framework to help you to take a big problem and break it down and then build out some really great ideas. And so what we're going to walk you through today is just a little prep work that helps you to really set up what that challenge actually is. Because when we first think of a challenge, we don't necessarily always really understand it until we get out and talk to our users. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. So in the application, the first thing it's going to ask you is just to describe the challenge that you're currently experiencing in education, and more importantly, why it matters. So in this part, you're sort of looking at it could be something that's specific in your school building. It could be something that you see in the broader education landscape. It could be something that is specific to your region or your country. But we're looking for challenges that are meaningful and as unique as possible. We've had so many innovators come through these challenges now, and some of the things that people have launched and created out of this program are truly phenomenal and actually making big changes in education. And so we're really looking for those big ideas and things that, don't be afraid if you don't know how you're going to solve it yet. Like, you can go after big challenges here and not focus too much on, but I don't even know how I would actually solve this problem. Because that's what the Academy is all about, is helping you come up with those ideas and thinking 10x about how you're going to solve those problems. So don't be afraid to go after those big, hairy problems as you go through this process.
Totally. Alicia has 3 challenges.
Amazing. Yeah. So what we'd like you to do right now is just describe quickly what is the challenge that you are actually facing, and why does that matter? So we're just going to have you describe that in the chat there.
And this will really be that first question, right? You're really describing it. Right now, you're just going to do a nice short one for us in the chat so everyone can see what you're thinking and see what the actual challenge is. But there shouldn't be, in this question in the application, any solutions yet. You're really just laying, for the innovator that's reading your application, you're painting the scene of what's the challenge, right? And why do you care about it? So let's look in the chat. Helen's problem is getting teachers to have an authentic audience for their students' work. Awesome. And drop in, Helen, why you think that matters. We all know, and I think that's implicit, right, in a lot of what we say or think about. But in your application, you'll want to really just keep asking why, right? And Les will work with us in a bit about why that's important to always keep asking that. Go Canada! Yay! Hi, Michelle. Hi, Judy. Any other Canadians in the house?
Yeah, and I think there's something there too. There's something in design thinking that we call the beginner's mindset, which is to always approach challenges with the mindset of being there to learn and not necessarily knowing everything about that problem. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about your problem, but also keep in mind that the people who will be reading your application might not just have the same background knowledge that you do. So sometimes we assume that other people know why something's important or know why this is a problem. But the more you can explain that, I know it's only 150 words, but the more you can explain that, the better in your application.
Totally. Keep those coming, guys. About 10 seconds left. Don't be afraid. Right now, this is a safe space. It's a workshop. No bad ideas. Throw it out there. A challenge that you currently face, even if it's getting the microwave at lunchtime. And there we go, is our time. Oh, goodness. Let's look at some of those responses. Lisa, making PD individualized and purposeful while at the same time reaching all teachers. I'm looking to motivate teachers and staff into becoming active participants and using technology, using computer science. Awesome, Katie. So for this question, I like all the descriptions of what you want to do here. Really make sure this one question in the app, when you go to it, is asking you to just describe it, right? So if you're thinking of using computer science and robotics to teach K-3 reading, really use this question to paint for that innovator reading it, why is this a problem, right? And we see this a lot in applications. We know we want things in the classroom, but really tell us a story about why this is a problem, right? Why do you think teachers need more of this in the classroom? And that might help really set up when you talk about your interview and your how might we. But really let this describe that challenge, that gripe, right? A lot of you went through our gripe jam, right? Like not enough resources or, the things that are really bothering you. So let that come through here. Let's see a few more. Petra, small district, only tech coach, and you want to be able to provide support to them, right? So really, Petra's answer to this one will really dive into that day, her day of working in the small district. She's the only person. She's going and she only gets to 3 out of 50 people that day, right? So really let this understand, right? Because if you just use this question to kind of say why you want something to happen, we really want to see the need. Is there a need here for what you have? And cool. Awesome. Thanks, Katie. Tiffany. Yeah, Les.
I was gonna say another thing to do would be to do some searches on your problem and see what else exists out there. Because I think that sometimes we find people don't know what else is out there. So if you see someone else who's writing a problem right now and you're thinking, hey, I know something that solves that problem, drop that in the chat as well so that people can see what else is out there that might actually solve their problem, so they can focus on what's the unique differentiator of their problem that makes it so different from other things that are already happening out there related to that. We see a lot of stuff around how can we create excellent PD opportunities for teachers. And sometimes I think when you get to the root of that problem, and it might not be actually that these PD programs don't exist. They probably do exist. It's maybe the challenge is more around access to those, or funding, or other things that are structurally preventing you from accessing those things that are out there. So I think just be wary of trying to really think about the uniqueness of your challenge and what makes it so specific.
Thanks, Les. All right, let's look for another one. Michelle says the need for data science skills is great. There's a shortfall versus jobs. Wow, so that is a big problem, and it's easy to see that, Michelle, the way you've laid it out. So that sounds like a great start, right? Don't worry, you don't have to ham it all in here. You have several other questions following up. So you always can just kind of sketch out, how your approach will be to describing my challenge, and then framing my challenge, and then thinking about what you'll do next. Cool. Alicia, curate digital learning opportunities. Awesome. Yeah, you might want to think again, why is curating a problem at your school, right? So really start with that problem, things you've heard from teachers, things you've heard from students, or just things at the end of the day that you're struggling with, and that would really make your application strong. Judy, students who are facing physically challenged want to participate in class activity, and there's not enough authentic material. Awesome. Great challenge to start with. Again, you have 150 words, so take that nugget like Judy started with, and then just flesh it out and talk about what that challenge is actually like. Perfect. Let us know if you have any questions about just describing your challenge, but really, and then make sure you get that why it matters in there, right? So in terms of Judy, why does it matter? Then Judy could say, I'm passionate about all learners having access to resources. I'm passionate about this because, as a learner growing up, I didn't have enough access. Whatever that reason is, make sure that reason for why you care about that is in here. Awesome, guys. All right, moving on, Les is going to talk now about some interviews.
Yeah, so at the heart of design thinking, or what often is used synonymously as a term for this, is human-centered or user-centered design, is really this idea of empathy, of how can we really try to understand the problem that our users, the people who are affected by this problem, are experiencing. Now in schools, our end users are always our students, right? Everything that we do in our schools is ends with our students. They're sort of the heart of what we're doing. But in order to access those students, your users might be other teachers, it might be administrators, it could be parents. We've seen some really cool projects come through the Innovator program around parent engagement. It could be larger members of the community. I saw someone saying they wanted to find those real audiences for their students. Those might be considered users in your program. But it's essentially sort of who are the stakeholders that are affected by this problem, and who are the people that will be using whatever it is that you create, even if you don't know what that's going to be yet that you create. And so we really want to encourage you, before you even apply, to go out and talk to some users to validate, like, is what you think the problem, is that actually the problem from their perspective? And this used to be something that we did further on along in the process. After you were accepted to the academy, we would do that, and you'll still be doing more of this after you're accepted into an academy. We send you out with a lot of pre-work to do before you come, where you're doing a deeper dive into this user discovery and understanding your user's needs. But for the application, we're going to ask you to interview at least one person who's affected by your problem and try to understand that problem from their perspective. And we'll give you some structure around that later on. But what you want to do during these interviews is really uncover your users' needs. So the more you can get your users to tell you stories about their experience, the better you're going to understand their problem. And we have this saying at Future Design School that we say, fall in love with the problem, not the solution. And so at this point, you're really trying to not necessarily think about what the solution is. During these interviews, you're not asking them to tell you how they think the problem should be solved. This will actually prevent you from understanding what their true problem is. Instead, get them to tell you stories about times when they experienced this challenge, or how do they feel when this happened. I think feelings often are what motivates people's behavior. So really encouraging that elaboration, getting them to tell you stories, asking open-ended questions. And my favorite prompt for interviews is tell me more. Tell me more about that. Why is this a problem? And also making sure that the person that you're interviewing knows that you're not interrogating them. You're not asking them to, you're not judging them, I guess. You're not saying, well, why didn't you do it this way? But rather it's why is that a problem? Tell me more about that. So when you're asking why, just be careful about that too, that it doesn't come across as like you making them feel like they've been doing something wrong, because that's the sort of opposite of what we're going for. And so then again, just encourage that elaboration. The stories that come out is where you're really going to find those surprising insights about their needs, which is really what we're trying to uncover through these interviews, is asking those questions that are going to get at their needs. So again, you want to ask these open-ended questions like why or how or explain. And you want to avoid questions that are things like, don't you think it would be better if, or, what about this solution? Because at this point, we're just asking for their feedback. Later on, after you come through the academy and you start to develop your solution, the goal is to leave the academy and be able to go out and get tons of feedback, where you're going to then get them to share with you what they think about whatever it is that you've created. So what we're going to do now is think about if you have had a chance to talk to your user. I know some of you have already started the application, so you're already in that process of speaking to people. If you have, then you're going to sort of complete this little Mad Libs version of what we call a point of view or a need statement. If you have not, then you're going to imagine what you think your user would say. But we really do want to encourage you to talk to real people at some point in this process. But the Mad Libs is simply name, so person needs. What is it that they need? An adjective and a noun. And the needs here is not what is the solution that they need, but what is their unmet need when it comes to this problem. The adjective and the noun describes them. So it would be, Bob is a student who is disengaged, who needs, authentic experiences because why? What is this going to give him? What's the reason that you've uncovered about that? So we're going to have you all now create your own needs statement, and you're going to drop it into the chat. Again, if you've spoken to your user, that's amazing. If you haven't had a chance to speak to your user yet, then imagine what they would say, or what their problem you believe is their problem from your current experience.
Thanks, Les. Yeah, great. Type those in, everyone. We'll take a peek. And if the coaches are in the call, feel free to give some feedback. But yeah, even looking at like Judy's, if you haven't interviewed somebody yet, so Judy's thinking about a student as her main person, receiving that problem, right? So she might think of a student's name or just make one up, right? Of just thinking like, Les is a physically challenged student who who needs engaging activities in the classroom, but there's no authentic materials, right? So that's taken kind of what Judy has mentioned of being her challenge, but now you're looking at it through the eyes of the student and what that student really needs. So let's see it. Some people, go ahead, throw them in.
Someone asked about people not speaking English. Judy asked about not speaking English in the video. You don't actually need to include the interview in your video. The video is a whole separate piece that you'll do. This is more of a prep work for you before. But if you wanted to include that interview in your video, I think it could be a great way to help other people understand that problem. So.
Cool. We'll wait another couple of seconds. Let's get your statements in, but you can see here in the application, this is actually what you'll type in. It's really just a statement, a point of view statement like Les mentioned. So you'll really just have that name of the teacher or student or parent that you interviewed. In this case, we're just kind of making one up if you have, or think of somebody in your mind that you might interview. That adjective and noun, what do they need? And then what do they value, right? So cool, I see a few examples coming in. Mervat is a frustrated teacher who wants to make sure that her low readers read daily at home because this will elevate their reading levels. Cool. Thanks, Mervat. You could do a teacher. I think the important thing too is you could also do the student, right? And you could see what from the student's point of view too. You could try it a couple different ways and see what happens. Lisa, teachers are lifelong learners who need time and places and choice to learn digital applications because they have so much to do. Les, I think Lisa really nailed it on that insight. I think that's the key part, is that little piece there, that why, that because that's where your solution is going to be. Later on, when you're with Les, you'll find out what that solution is, but that little piece of information that they have too much to do is really the key to finding an interesting solution for it. Susan is a gifted and talented education teacher that needs to incorporate technology more meaningfully into lessons, but is hesitant because they always have used paper pencil. What do you think of that one, Les?
Yeah, I think that that idea of the hesitation is the word that I would jump into there and start to think about, as you're talking to those users, like, why is it that they hesitate? And I think those are the kind of questions, like, as you get those insights, you can dig in more into those, like, why is it that they're hesitating? What's driving that behavior? And that will help you to better understand that challenge.
Awesome. Mike has said, Chris is a 5th grade teacher who needs support for getting other teachers to adopt new technology because our district is rapidly adopting cloud computing, leaving many stuck in old computing paradigms lost. So already I see some parallels here, Les, like Mike and Keith have similar issues. And you know what? Many innovators have this very same issue. So we think it's important to get onto that hesitation and then even dig deeper. Like if you were able to meet with Susan, Keith, and really find out why in your specific instance, you know, there is so much hesitation, that uniqueness is really going to stand out and show that you've dug really deep. Because otherwise that kind of base level, I have hesitant teachers who want to integrate technology, is a problem that every single one of us, I think, encounter. And so you really want to make your challenge unique by figuring out why in this case is Susan so hesitant, for sure.
Yeah, and I think also that why is she hesitant? And there probably already are lots of resources out there that she could be accessing, and why is it that she's not? Like, what is the reason why she's not already accessing support that could be available to her?
Totally. Cool. Let me see. Tiffany's got one. Kendra's a high school English teacher that needs additional ways to engage her students because she's still working on honing her craft and doesn't have time to research on her own. So she's needs some new ways. Again, that might be one of thinking there's so many cool resources out there that, again, that why she's not accessing those, I think will be super important to make something. That way you're not, when you get to the solution phase, you're not just making resources, right? But you're designing something that's going to help Kendra, because for whatever reason, the many, many resources online aren't working for her. So if even your point of view statement can point that out, or your how might we statement, that's going to really, when, you know, Jennifer or Santi or somebody's reading your application, they're not going to just gloss over it because it looks like a very similar problem they've seen a lot, but they're going to see Kendra's unique circumstance and say, oh, that's an interesting problem. I've seen it before where teachers don't aren't interested in resources, but I haven't seen that why before. So I think that'll be really great if you can dive into that. Ooh, we got one from Mike. Bob's a tech teacher who wants to find opportunities to create cross-cutting integrated technology lessons for his fellow teachers that incorporates design thinking with an authentic audience. Cool. Yeah. Again, that why of why he's not doing it might be helpful here, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe the thinking of he wants to incorporate lessons, but, right, don't be afraid of that but too, but he can't because blank, right? Maybe that will help you get at it. Cool.
I might have some solutions for you, Mike D.
Cool. Got Eileen as a teacher who wants authentic experiences for her students because filling out a worksheet isn't real. Cool. And I think even I'm seeing a lot of those authentic experiences. Again, digging in deep during that describe your challenge. Don't just assume everyone thinks that that integrating technology is awesome or that authentic experiences are awesome. We know that, I think, on this call, your task is to try to make the case for it and think, why is it, right? Why do we think authentic? What does it really do to a student when they have authentic learning, and making sure that that's somehow in there, because otherwise you might end up just taking an assumption you have about something cool and then, making it be in the classroom just because it's new or, we might have, I wonder, did we ever see Google Glass in the classroom applications, right? Like, so you wouldn't want to just take a new thing like AI or machine learning and say, Bob is a teacher who needs to integrate AI in the classroom. It's like, why? Why do you need to integrate AI? Like, right? So get more at those features of, what makes authentic learning good or what makes AI good, and focus on those rather than the thing that you really want them to do in the class. Really great point of view statements, everyone. And Robin, good question. Tech needs to be in it somehow, right? It doesn't have to be overly G Suite or Google, but you do want, I think Google certified innovators are changing education through integrating technology in the classroom. So probably some part of it, but it absolutely still could have some analog components, Robin, like face-to-face teaching or, Post-it notes or posters or things like that. So yeah, it doesn't have to fully be technology, but this is a technology innovation program. So somewhere in there, but great question.
Yeah, and I think the idea is too, thinking about different ways that you could use tech as part of your solution. Like, it might not be that the answer to your question is teachers are using more tech in the classroom, because then we'd have a whole lot of very similar projects, but it might be that you create a Google site that's going to share your project with the world, or it might be that you're using YouTube to create videos that are sharing ideas with people, or you're documenting your project in some way using technology as well.
Cool. All right, everyone, if you have any questions about that point of view statement or having an interview, let us know in the chat. But we're going to spend the last 12 minutes or so diving into the actual how might we statement, which is your jump off for actually solving it. But great. Thank you everyone for sharing those initial thoughts. And if you need any more feedback, we'll read through and at you as well. And also feel free to at anyone on Twitter or share it to #GoogleEI and say, what do you guys think? Get it out there and just have other people read your ideas. We'll get you some good feedback. Cool. Les, take us away. How do they take this point of view statement and turn it into something that's actionable?
Yeah. So one of the reasons why I fell in love with design 15 years ago was because it's inherently optimistic. And there's certain language tweaks that we make when we're talking in design language. And one of them is this statement of how might we? It's sort of at the basis of a lot of design thinking work. And the idea behind it is that you're turning your problem into an opportunity by rephrasing it as a question. And so what we're going to have you do now is think about how you could take that problem that you just described in your point of view statement and reframe it as a how might we question. In other words, how might we solve this problem? And what you're looking for here, there's a bit of an art to writing how might we questions, and we're going to do some practice on this in a couple of minutes. But you want to balance sort of the specificity of the problem, like what is it specifically that this user needs, with the idea that you're not getting so specific that you're coming up with solutions and embedding those in your question. So it needs to be sort of broad enough that you can look for a wide range of solutions, but narrow enough that you are actually getting into that problem that you're trying to solve. So what we're going to do is we're going to have you now drop into the chat your how might we statement. So take a look at that need statement that you wrote out and think about how you could phrase that as a question that balances that specificity of the problem with the need to have opportunity for lots of different ways that you could potentially solve that problem.
Thanks, Les. All right, timer is on. We have 2 minutes. Drop your how might we. Just even looking at Craig's point of view statement about Sally, who needs guidance, purpose, ownership for her online portfolios because she's not doing it, right? So quick flip on that one is taking a problem that you see and then just flip it with that how might we, right? And so the very base level would be how might we provide guidance, purpose, and ownership to the online portfolio process, right? It's a really easy beginner way to make that statement. Mervat's ready. How might we motivate our reluctant students? Luis, how might we make?
I like
yeah.
Oh, sorry,
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I like Helen's, how she really, that how might we expand our students' reach beyond their teacher in the classroom to make learning relevant. I like how you've left it open enough that there's lots of possibilities there for how you're gonna actually expand their reach, rather than saying something like, how might we create a platform that, like that would be embedding a solution. So I think you've really hit that balance there, and that relevancy is the really why behind it, so.
Totally. And getting that, somehow shoehorning that there's that little nugget every one of you has in that point of view statement, the hesitancy or the, the access, right? And making that one stand apart, right? So making your how might we have that need, or that you found, that insight that made your problem a little bit more specific, but not too specific, right? So like Les said, it is an art. Katie, how might we support dyslexic students with engaging, authentic, and efficient strategies for learning? How might we create Google literate students in a time-constrained classroom? I like that, Courtney. You've got kind of that parameter in there, right? That time constraint, right? So you can start to play with it, and that's what we're going to do next, is take that initial sentence. What if you took something away, like how might we create Google literate students in a classroom? That might be a little too broad, right? So the fact that Courtney added in a time-constrained classroom is going to be a little bit more interesting of a solution and a little bit more focused. How might we assist teachers in increasing student engagement? Tiffany, you might want to look back at your point of view, see if you can find one more little nugget in there about that, why they aren't currently engaged, right? Is there something about your point of view statement that might be able to fit in the how might we to help you get a little bit of a narrower path? How might we expand online resources for Eileen to share with her coworkers and students? How might we help students acquire universally applicable library skills so that they can navigate? And then, yeah, you've got that specific part in there too, Catherine, the rest of their lives. You're looking for mindset change there, right? So that's helpful. Cool. Thanks, everyone. All right, keep those coming. We'll give some feedback in the chat, but Les is going to take us through a little chopping block.
All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to walk you through an example that shows of different ways how you can write how might we questions that will really change the the potential solutions that come out of that. And so we're going to use this example of a redesigning the ground experience at a local airport. And so our point of view statement, our user in this case, was a stressed mother of 3 rushing to the airport only to wait hours at the gates, who needs to entertain her playful children because annoying little brats, in quotations there, only irritate already frustrated fellow passengers. And so we're going to give you some tips in terms of how you can reframe how might we questions in different ways. So the first one that we came up with here was how might we remove the bad? So how might we separate the kids from the fellow passengers? So thinking about how you can take the negative aspect of your point of view statement and remove it in some way. So we're going to give you a couple seconds now to rewrite your how might we statement, thinking about how you could remove the bad somehow from your situation. And this is just a bit of a brainstorm, so don't worry too much about it being necessarily a well-crafted or grammatically correct question.
Right. So Elizabeth might take, how might we promote a culture of taking care of teachers? Think really back to that point of view statement and think of why is that not happening, right? So maybe it says, how might we separate the negativity of the lunchroom from the classroom, right? So try to think of a removing part of your statement. Take a shot. Let's see who wants to give it a shot at removing the bad. Is there anything with your user situation that if you removed it could possibly help? Right, so like Carla, how might we expand online resources for Eileen to share with her coworkers and students? Remember to think, why is that not currently happening right now? And maybe there's something you could remove from Eileen's environment to make online resources have more space. Ooh, Robin's got one. Let's see. How to look beyond here and now and look to their overall impact. Let's see, does anyone else have a removal? How might we? Removing the bad. You can rewatch this after, and we encourage you to just get a piece of paper out and scratch it out and just try. Get as many how might we's as you can before you land on the one you want to apply with. Oh, cool, Mike, I like the word reduce, right? So your removal word could be reduce or separate or remove, or I like it, but how might we reduce the friction of adopting software from teachers? Really specific, right? That could also be written of how do we make software more accessible to teachers? But now you've identified reducing the friction. I like that one, Les.
Yeah, I think that's a great one.
How might you make planning a more pleasurable experience? Can't quite remove planning. Well, maybe there's something bad happening, right? You said pleasurable, Louise. So what's making it not pleasurable? And then maybe your how might we is, how might we remove the extra homework that teachers have so they have more time to lesson plan? How might you remove inefficient library skills? Awesome. Cool. Let's go to our next one.
All right. So our next one is to question an assumption. So oftentimes we are assuming that something that has always happened, the status quo, needs to happen. So in this case, we were assuming that you need to get to the airport 3 hours early. I question this assumption every time I fly. I flew this afternoon and I only got to the airport an hour before my flight, but that might be stressful for some people. But this idea of how do we actually question something that we assume needs to happen? So in this case, how might we entirely remove the wait time from the airport? So think about maybe the status quo and what are some things that you're assuming have to happen in some way? And could you actually flip that on its head or question that assumption? We'll give you a minute to try that out.
Totally. Like I'm looking at Catherine's and like maybe it's how might we remove the physical or change the physical space of a library, right? If we assume if kids aren't, engaged in the library, maybe we need to completely rethink that space, right? So how might we transform the library space, or how might we? Cool. So give it a shot. We'll move on quickly to the next one. But if anyone had a particular questioning an assumption version of their how might we, remember, you only need to apply with one how might we. Les and I are just kind of chopping it up for you and helping you really play with your statement to see if one really resonates with you, right? The more you do this, then you'll land on one that's like, yeah, that's what I really mean. And we hope we can help you find that. How might we connect with our students on a personal level? How might we remove a limitation of creating class material? That's an interesting way to frame it. Cool. All right, next one.
Oops. All right. Our next one is to go after adjectives. So one of the things that we described our mother as is being stressed. And so we went after that adjective and thought about how can we flip that on its head? And this is a great way to think about what these solutions could possibly be, right? You see how we're sort of narrowing in here on what solutions could possibly be just by reframing the how might we question. So in this case, we said, how might we make the rush refreshing instead of stressful? So removing some of that bad, but also thinking about how do we flip that adjective. So take a look at that adjective that you used to describe your user or another adjective that was in your original statement and think about how you could maybe flip that adjective in some way. I really like the how might we transform teacher schedules to provide time for authentic teacher learning. Thinking about that status quo that was there before, we're assuming that teachers have to follow this 45-minute schedule or whatever their day-to-day is. How can we get rid of that? That was a good question assumption one there.
Oh, Keith's got two. How might you make the hesitant excited? Awesome. So how might you make teaching rewarding instead of the other one, Robin? Cool. Awesome, guys. You should have a nice little list. And make sure you copy this down and you'll get this, but you should have at least 4 or 5 examples now that you could draw from when you make that final choice. Let's do another one, Les. Oops.
All right. Leveraging unexpected resources or identifying unexpected resources. So in this case, you're thinking about what's something that you could leverage. And maybe it's the positive attributes of something that's happening in your situation that you could leverage in order to solve this problem. So in this case, with our airport example, we said, how might we leverage the free time of fellow passengers to share the load? So thinking about some unexpected or unidentified resources that we could leverage in order to solve our problem. You can also think about how you could leverage some of the positive things that are happening in your school or in relation to this challenge and think about how you could leverage those resources as well. Or it could even be leverage resources that you know are out there. Like I remember someone had the question about teaching those digital literacy skills to students with reduced amount of time. If you haven't seen the Google Applied Digital Skills curriculum, it's an amazing resource. So maybe it's something like, how might we leverage that curriculum in a way to do something?
Totally. I love that. And like, especially if you know something exists out there that's already pretty amazing, maybe your problem is just making that accessible or exciting to people. So let's see, did anybody have a leverage or an unexpected resource? I loved Les's idea of looking towards your staff, looking towards the community or parents, right? How might we empower students to use their passions to solve problems in their community? Awesome.
I love other teachers. Leveraging other teachers is a great thing you can leverage, right? How do you leverage those champions in your school to help those people that need support?
How might we make the library a destination rather? I like that the rather there, like that's the place to be rather than avoiding it. I love it. You've gotten down at that cultural issue that really is the problem. Yeah. How might we leverage pre-existing rockstar teachers to spread their ideas? Awesome, Mike. Very cool. All right. I know we're a little bit over. We just have a couple left. We've got.
All right.
Actually, I think maybe I'll stop on this one. I think Catherine just did this one. Catherine, yeah. How might we make the library a destination rather than an area to be avoided? But yeah, playing against that. Maybe we'll scooch against that one since Catherine did it. What about analogy? I like this one a lot.
Yeah, I like the analogy one a lot too. This is a great way to think about how you could compare something to something else and use that as a jumping off point for ideation, because this is a great way to spark those ideas when you come to the academy and start coming up with ideas for solving your problem. So in this case, we said, how might we make the airport like a spa or like a playground? So thinking about how you could make something more like something else. So using that sort of analogy or context from your needs. So try one of those out and see how that works.
I love like the library, like a Starbucks. I've seen like I think her name's at Top Dog Teacher. She on Instagram, and she turned her classroom into a place that people want to be at, like a Starbucks. I think she actually has like cups. All right, let's do another. Maybe one more. What's my favorite? I like this one. Amp up the good.
All right. So amp up the good. This is a way to think about what are some of the positive things that you see happening and how can you use that in a way to solve the problem. So this is similar to that one around leveraging unexpected resources, but this is specifically focusing on those good things. So in this case, how might we use the kids' energy to entertain the fellow passengers? So you're going to think about yours and what are some ways that you could amp up the good in your situation.
I love it. How might you make your classroom like your safe space? Cool. How might we leverage all teachers to contribute to finding solutions to support ESL students? I love it. How might we leverage awesome tools to contribute to more students with physical challenges? I love that one, Judy, because then you're not really looking to make a bunch of new tools. You're looking to make them accessible. How to make classroom like a VR gaming palace where students get immediate feedback. Very cool. I want to be in that classroom right now. Cool. All right, guys. So if you have any final questions about your how might we, those were just a few ways to workshop your statement. Keep doing it, play around, make it smaller, make it longer, see what fits. But really the main thing is this statement will be what you come to Google New York with, or Google Singapore, or Google Stockholm, and it's going to be the foundation of finding your solution. So the reason we spend a little bit of time on it is so that you have it focused enough that you can find some cool solutions. Infectious, Robin. I love it. A few notes, just so you guys can see what that looks like. This is a SID19 innovator who just went to Sydney, Rachel Duckworth. So she applied with her point of view statement. Holly's a year 8 student who wants to succeed at school, but doesn't feel connected to the curriculum, right? She's got that issue there, that insight. She doesn't connect to it for whatever reason. So the how might we connect young Indigenous learners with their culture that gives them an authentic context for learning? And then she explains her challenge really well. She talks about, exactly why this student encounters that problem. And then Les, what will they do quickly once they get to Google New York? This is just one phase of an entire design thinking cycle.
Yeah, so we spend a lot of this time before you come to the Academy in this empathize and define stage where you're really trying to understand those users' needs. And we do that before you come because you need to be able to go out and talk to those real people to really understand and define that problem. So by the time you come to the Academy, you'll have all that defined. And then we go through this crazy fast process. Even though it's 3 whole days, it flies by, of coming up with lots of ideas, deciding which ideas you want to move forward with, getting feedback on those ideas through critiques, prototyping out your ideas. So thinking about what's the minimum viable product that you can build that you'll be able to take back after the Academy and actually show to real users and get that feedback from them, and then use that feedback to iterate and validate your ideas, and think about how you can fail fast and figure out what works and what doesn't work before you actually come to a point where you launch your project. We will also be covering launching and things like that during the Academy. So we'll help you practice making a pitch to share your ideas, always sort of staying focused on the needs of those users at all times during this process, really thinking 10X. Someone asked about time frame earlier in the chat. What is the time frame for this project? You have to complete your project or report on your project in the course of a year, but your project might extend well beyond a year. We like to see people launch something within that year, but I know there's some people's project like Derek, who was part of WDC 17, his project is still going on now. It's been almost 2 years. My project is what became Future Design School, and that's obviously still going on. It's been 3 years now. So thinking big and then working backwards to what's possible, and that's the prototyping mindset or being prototype driven. So don't be afraid to go after big things and don't feel constrained by like a 3-day academy, because it really lives much beyond that 3 days of the academy.
Awesome. Thanks, Les. And And finally, we have a fun prize that we'll give away as part of our follow-up. Be brave and tweet your hashtag #HowMightWe and hashtag Google EI to win. We'll have a fun design thinking book that we'll send your way, and we'll DM you on Twitter. But tweet right now if you want to enter your How Might We. Get it out there. And then don't forget to also put hashtag Google EI and then ask for feedback. What do you think? And join our community. So do that right now. If you want to be eligible, we'll follow up shortly with our winner. And also, we have one more webinar before August 2nd. We've done our How Might We. You guys should all feel good with that. Our final one is videos. So come to our next webinar with an idea of how you want to share your story visually in a video. And we'll walk through some great examples and some tips and give some feedback if you have a draft of your video. Les also has a cool opportunity with Future Design School. If you like any of this design thinking stuff, you want to learn more with Les, how can they do that, Les?
Yeah, so we have some online courses happening this summer with Future Design School. One of them is this Certified Entrepreneurship Educator program, and it's built around leveraging design thinking to empower your kids to think like entrepreneurs in the classroom. So it's a PD program that's fully online for teachers where they go through their own sort of entrepreneurial journey over the course of 10 weeks in the summer. And then it comes with curriculum that you can use in the classroom to help your students to use this design thinking process to solve big problems in the world. And then at the end, your students get certificates saying that they have gone through this entrepreneurial process. And so if you're interested in learning more with us, you can just go to futuredesignschool.com and find us there. And we set up a little code for everyone who's on the chat tonight to get a bit of a discount on that course if you're interested in some online learning with us this summer.
Thanks, Les. And we also have one of our innovators, Katie Aquino, has made a design thinking course with EdTech team. We'll send you a discount for that as well if you want a little bit more support and dive in through this process. With that, everyone, we're going to let you head off to your dinners or your breakfast in Southeast Asia. We will have one more webinar for the Southeast Asia before July, Courtney. So we'll send that to anyone interested in the Southeast Asia Singapore cohort. But we had a great time. Huge thanks to Les. Les is always such a wonderful resource and inspiring. Hopefully she's inspired you. You can use this process away from the application. We hope you start thinking this way and see things at your school always with a how might we frame of mind and always be looking for opportunities like Les said. So thank you to our coaches and innovators on the call. Thanks, Jason and Jennifer, Santi. Please feel free to reach out to them and each other. And we'll look for your how might we's on Twitter and give a prize out here in just a few minutes. Thanks so much, everyone.
Yeah, you've all inspired me so much.
I know, I hate it.
I'm walking away.
And then it makes you want to go, I want to go make this cool library with Catherine right now.
Yeah.
Stop everything else you're doing, Les. We're going to make a library. Have a
Side
good
hustle.
day.
Side hustle.
Side hustle library. Bye, Les. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.